One of the paintings by Alphonse Mucha, the exterior of buildings like this one from Riga, or a staircase where the shape of the stairs, the wrought iron, the decorations on the wall and floor are all integrated beautifully. These are all examples of the Art Nouveau style, which was popular between 1890 and 1914, the beginning of World War I. It is an art movement that is known under many different names, depending on which country you focus on. Perhaps the first works in this style were by the Catalan artist Antoni Gaudí. This is his Casa Mila in Barcelona. Gaudí's work is typically classified as modernisme, also known as Catalan modernism or Catalan Art Nouveau. Gaudí was inspired by nature, how plants and trees grow, and especially inspired by the curvature and elegance of these natural elements, but also by less common geometric shapes, which he combined into his own highly unique style. Even in the Sagrada Familia, the famous church in Barcelona, you can see many elements of Art Nouveau, which is perhaps the most common term for this art movement, although more precisely, it is the French name for several related art movements at the end of the 19th and early 20th century. Without going through each of these local variations of Art Nouveau in detail now, here's a quick overview of the alternative terms used. One of the more popular variations is the movement known as Vienna Secession, well known from works by Gustav Klimt and his colleagues. And the Kiss is the most famous work in this style. Art Nouveau is better known as Jugendstil in Germany, the Glasgow style in Scotland, the Liberty style in Italy, the Tiffany style in the United States, referring to a member of the Tiffany family known for its jewelry who made glass objects in the Art Nouveau style. And then Art Nouveau is also simply referred to as the Mucha Style, referring to the highly popular art of the Czech-born artist Alphonse Mucha, who was active in Paris. Art Nouveau was very much inspired by nature with its curved shapes. A specific example of the types of shapes that inspired these artists was the so-called whiplash line, an asymmetric S-shape, like we see here in the staircase by Victor Horta, but also in the pattern of the steam from the cup of tea in this lithograph by Henri Meunier. One of the major inspirations or goals of Art Nouveau was to eliminate the distinction between the fields of fine arts, like sculpture and paintings, and applied arts. These two worlds were quite separate from each other, even though both were creative in their own ways. So, you can find Art Nouveau not only in paintings, but in many other art forms. Look, for example, at these interior design elements, like a simple door handle, an adjustable armchair, a decorated plate, and this colorful dragonfly lamp from 1910 with the cover made from stained glass. This is a decorated vase of biscuit porcelain and an enamel vase decorated with flowers. Jewelry was also designed in this style, like this richly decorated pendant and this brooch in the theme of the goddess Nike. And don't be surprised to run into some Art Nouveau on the streets today, like these entrances to metro stations which were decorated in this style, which you can find both in France and abroad. Or the exterior of many buildings was designed following the Art Nouveau ideas, like these houses in the French city of Strasbourg. You can see that there was an overall idea of unity in the design of these houses, but at the same time, none of them are the same. Or the architecture was combined with Art Nouveau illustrations, like this house in the Netherlands. For the remainder of this video, I will focus on Art Nouveau illustrations, like this tin can, but mostly on paintings in the Art Nouveau style. And the first name that comes to mind to many when mentioning Art Nouveau is Alphonse Mucha. So much so that the term Mucha Style is synonymous with Art Nouveau. For example, this is one of his works called Fruit from 1897, which clearly shows the asymmetric elements, floral design and the many curved lines and shapes inspired by plants. As you can see in these other works by him, his colorful style with those curved lines resulted in dynamic and intriguing artworks, something that was completely different from the leading art movements at the time, like academic art, Impressionism and Post-Impressionism. And it would change the views of the streets of Paris, as many of his works were large advertising posters which were on display outside. If you are interested in learning more about Mucha Style, I actually have a separate video on this channel dedicated completely to his art. Let's go into a few more pivotal artists in the various Art Nouveau movements, starting with a British illustrator called Aubrey Beardsley. Most of his book illustrations are in black and white, and they really emphasize the flowing curved lines that are strongly associated with Art Nouveau. Arguably the most famous Austrian artist, Gustav Klimt, also embraced many of the ideas of Art Nouveau. Klimt was one of the founders of the Vienna Secession, an art movement who left the older ideas of academic art behind and focused on new forms of expression. The Vienna Secession is actually a great example of how Art Nouveau movements are related to each other, but also unique. The Vienna Secession actively organized exhibitions from artists abroad to search for inspiration. These works came from all over Europe, and this is how artists from the French Art Nouveau movement or the Scottish Glasgow style directly inspired the Vienna Secession. But at the same time, the Austrian artists not just copied these other styles, but they kept their own unique elements, setting it apart from their counterparts in different countries. Klimt, for example, adopted the decorative elements of Art Nouveau as well as the relatively flatness of the surfaces, as opposed to the careful applications of the rules of perspective. But Klimt added gold leaf to some of his works, and was also strongly related to the symbolism art movement in the topics that he painted. And then you have the German Jugendstil artists like Otto Eckmann and Peter Behrens. In Poland, Edward Okun created his works in the Art Nouveau style. And in the United States, artists like William the Leftwich Dodge and Maxfield Parrish did their parts. And you can probably understand that with so many related movements in different countries, there are many more amazing artists who worked in this style during the last decade of the 19th century and the first 1.5 decades of the 20th century. Well, I hope you found this discussion of Art Nouveau and its related art movements enlightening. It's often hard to classify artists into a single bucket, but at the same time, it's also helpful to understand art history better by focusing on a single art movement. I'm curious to hear which Art Nouveau artists or artworks are among your favorites, whether they were included in this video or not. And as always, if you want to support the channel, please hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell to be alerted when new videos are released. Thanks for watching.